please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Members of this committee are myself as chair, Mr. Frank Ortiz as vice chair, and Ms. Nadia Ruth Grantland as member. Our goals today are to provide and maintain adequate facilities in order to support ongoing academic progress. As you guys can see, we do have a lengthy agenda, and then we do have a meeting after this. So what I'm going to ask during the presentation, if we can bundle A, B, we'll ask questions. We'll bundle C, D, ask questions, and then the last one. That way we can just keep the meeting flowing if that's okay with you guys. And I will turn it over to Dr. Chavez.
First of all, thank you so much for being here this evening. As the community's probably noticed, we have 3 separate meetings. We've already had one. This is our second meeting. And by the way, Ms. Jessica Gonzalez is the chair of this committee, and that's the reason she is running the meeting. Just wanted to explain that to everybody. I would like to have Mr. Alonso Guerrero come forward, and he's going to be going over the presentation with us.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Superintendent Dr. Chavez, and esteemed board members of the audience. We're here for today for our Facilities Committee meeting. We'll try to make it brief. I know it's a lot of things we need to cover. We had a meeting in a while, so we need to cover some good stuff through here. So we're going to go over our delegation of authority, procurement process. We're going to provide an update of ongoing projects such as your elementary mini gyms phase 3, 4-lane tracks, high school softball fields, Hannah's tennis courts, Resaca Technology, FNS freezer, HVAC chiller projects, Lopez High School intercom project, Sam Stadium structural repairs, CT building phase 1. That's our ongoing projects. Projects on hold are your LED projects district-wide, roof replacement district-wide, and your Veterans Memorial Early College High School stadium upgrades. After that, we'll be discussing unfunded projects such as your Veterans Memorial track resurfacing, intercoms district-wide, central administration building drainage, Sam's Stadium press box technology upgrades. And then we'll end with the campus capacity versus enrollment. Start out with delegation of authority. We have 3 different government codes here: 2269-056A, 2269-056B, 2269-053A. First one, 2269-056A, and I'm not going to read it verbatim here. I'm just going to summarize it. That one has to deal with the procurement method. The district chooses to use different procurement methods, from your concealed seal proposals, your RFQs, your request for qualifications, and your RFPs, request for proposals. Those are the ones that the board has authorized for us to use. That's established in 2269-056A. 2269.056B, we have to publish the criteria on how we're going to evaluate these proposals that come in, this RFQs, the CSPs, your RFPs. This is where we evaluate. The government code states that we have to publish this prior to us even announcing that we're going out for any of those. So we do have it announced. And the last one, 2269.053A, establishes the criteria, the committee that does the ranking for the district as far as what vendor is going to be selected, brought forth as a recommendation to this board. So those are your 3 main government codes that we follow when it comes to procurement. The district has a two-step ranking process for your proposals. First process, it will be done by our CFO or designee. This includes financial qualifications. Each vendor has to submit their financial statements as far as what we request. There's 5 different areas totaling up to 100 points on the stuff that we request, from letters of reference, bid bond companies who they use, Um, will your bid bond company be the same as your performance bond company? So are they using the same companies? Are they being bonded? And this is just to ensure the district is safeguarded as far as if the company doesn't finish the project or something happens through the construction process, the district is safeguarded. As well as a statement attesting the firm is a sole proprietary. There's no other people invested in the company, and a statement by a CPA firm license. Once this is ranked by our CFO or designee, then it goes to the ranking committee. The ranking committee that the district has elected is all district employees. It starts with the chief financial officer or designee, our facilities director or designee, our project manager, our director of technology or designee, our maintenance director or designee, and the project originator or designee. What I mean by project originator is if we're building a mini gym, we're going to include the coach of that facility to ensure that they have a ward in this um, project, that they're part of the project and they voice their concerns, their needs, their wants for that project. That's why we have this ranking committee like that. So if it's a school we're building, we'll include our leadership as part of that ranking committee. What does the ranking committee look at? There's 5 components: the price, which is 40 points; construction company experience, which max points is 25 points; construction team and subcontractors experience, which max points is 10; construction performance and professionalism, equivalent to max 25 points. Sorry, it's 4, not 5. So when we come to price, we just don't, okay, the highest bidder gets so many points, the second one gets so many. There's a calculations that we have to do. We take our highest bidder and our lowest bidder, divide the difference, and then there's a 16-point spread between the highest rank that they can get the highest points and the lowest points, which is 40 and 24. So we divide the difference by the 16, and that's how much it's equivalent per point. Like for this example, the high bid is 1,150,000. The low bid is 1 million. The difference is 150,000. The point spread is 16, right? So 150,000 divided by 16 equals 9,375 per point. So how do we come to the next bidder? So we get the second low bidder, 1,050,000 minus the lowest bidder, 50,000. It's 50,000 difference. Divided by the 9,375, it's 5.33 points. So we get the max points that they get, which is 40, and subtract the points, the difference, which is 5.33. So they come up with 34.67, and we go so forth. As we get more bidders, it gets smaller. If we get less bidders, it gets higher, the points that they can get. And this is the form that we use when we do rank project for a vendor or for a contractor to be awarded. This is the form that we all use. We all use the same form. All these are max points they can receive for each different category, and they're divided a little further. Now let's get into the procurement process. So once the board approves a project, some individuals think that once the board approves a project, we start construction the day after. That is not so. It's a long process in between when the board approves a project to the time we actually start construction. Project is initiated, scope is established. We have to submit the specs on day 1 to procurement. They do first and second advertisement 14 days apart, or 7 days for the first one, then 7 days for the second one, total 14 days. We have a pre-bid conference 1 day. Then it goes out to market for a minimum of 10 days. It has to be advertised post the second advertisement. Bid deadline closes 1 day. Financial stability ranking by the CFO, ranking by the committee. And then we have to turn in the agenda at least 14 days prior to the board meeting, so that our legal department, Ms. Perez has also a chance to review, our superintendent has a chance to review the agenda item, our board president that reviews the agenda as well has time to review the agenda before it goes to board. So we give about 14 days there. Recommendation comes to the school board. Contract negotiations start once accepted vendor by the board. Then we start negotiations with the vendor. We get the contract ready. We take it to legal, their legal, back and forth. Comes back to us. Okay, we're ready. Bring it back to board. This is what the contractor stating. It's gonna take him 300 days. This is how much you're asking for. Board, do you agree? Can we proceed? We take it from there. This is just a sample timeline. This is for architectural services. See, it took about, we started in May 27. It didn't come to the board in a special called board meeting to June 26. So it's a lengthy process there. Second one is for an actual contractor. We started the bids in March 5th. We brought it to the board on May 7th, 2024. So it's quite a lengthy process. So we'll move on to our ongoing projects overview. We'll be covering these projects. We'll start with the first one, which is your elementary mini gyms, phase 3. As you recall, we already did phase 1, phase 2, which covered most of our campuses. We have 9 campuses that we have to address. We already started the procurement process on this project. This funding source is 188 funding source, which is a TRI. We have a total budget of $4,556,800. The campuses that will be addressed are in 2 groups. One group already has restrooms, it just needs HVAC upgrades, which is Breeden, Bright, Keller, Peña, and Pullum. The second group does not have restrooms, and they need restrooms and HVAC upgrades, which is Chroma Castañeda, Paredes, Punet, Garza at Southmost. So I said, we already started our bids on this project. We already have our bid has returned for architecture services. We're negotiating with the architects right now, and we'll be bringing it to the December board meeting for board approval to move on with that. After we get board approval, it will take about 60 to 90 days for the architect to redesign the mini gym to what we need. We'll be having several meetings with our campus staff, with our principals, coaches, our maintenance staff to ensure that we all get address whatever issues we have there, whatever we have in those mini gyms. Once the design is approved, administration will proceed the process with selecting a contractor. We'll go out for bids another 45 days. Once bids are received, we'll establish a better timeline as far as construction, when it comes to construction. 4-lane middle school tracks. There's 4 campuses that are pending 4-lane middle school tracks. The procurement process has been initiated this month. We've been working with our architect, a record. These are local funds from the 21-22 school year. The total budget we have is $957,820. So in working with our architects, we asked for probable cost estimates. Oliveira Middle School has a probable cost estimate of $1.1 million to build a 4-lane track. So does Manzano Middle School. Falk Middle School, there's no way for us to put a 4-lane track because of its location. We can't put it in the retention pond because once it floods, all that work's gonna go to waste. What we can do is straight away. We measured, it's about 175 meters straight away that we can design there, and that's about $350,000. Perkins, we still haven't gotten into that one. That's next we're working with right now with our contractor. So this is a preliminary design for Oliveira Middle School. We were able to make it fit into that space that we have there. This is somewhat what it would look like. Of course, not all in green the way it is. Manzano, there's still some tweaking we have to do. Part of the track is here in the detention pond that's there in Manzano. We need to align it a little better so we can avoid that detention pond or see what other options we have. We did speak to the coach at Manzano, the coach Leal, and the principal, Mr. Bill. And right now they have 2 fields. They're okay of letting go one field and going with one field as long as they get a track at that location. Falk Middle School. So here's your 175-meter straightaway. What this would be good for is for them to practice their hurdles, practice exchanges, and just get the feeling of running on a basic track. As you can see on the left-hand side of this picture, this is all detention pond. Our softball field, part of our football field is right now under the detention pond, and when it rains, it gets flooded there pretty bad. Perkins, there might be some space, there might be some accommodation we need to do, but it's very limited there as far as what we can build there. High school football fields. This is a Title IX project. Currently, softball. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. Rivera, trying to expedite it here a little bit. Rivera and Hannah have been completed. Those are the first two softball fields that were done. Pending schools is Pace, Porter, and Lopez. You might see that Veterans is not listed. The reason Veterans not listed is those other schools want to mimic what Veterans already has, which is your bleachers and your press box. The procurement process has not been started. For the first two schools, we spent $1,557,498. These were local funds from 21-22 school year. Currently, we have no funds allocated for this project. We are working on coming up with ways so we can procure funds, at least do one a year for the next couple of years. We're looking at different ways. As we start the budget process, we'll be trying to incorporate this in the budget as well to ensure we address this Title IX project. This is what the Rivera High School softball field looks like after the construction. Real nice. Hannah Tennis Court. So the Hannah Tennis Court, we already have an architect of record, which is GMS, Gomez Mendez Architects. We do have a contractor we are working with, which is Hellas Construction. They're pending board approval. They're coming up here next month as well. We're working on getting the contract taken to board in the December board meeting. We're estimating cost of $949,795 just to do the Hannah tennis courts. These are 22-23 local funds that we're using. The scope of work for this project will be repair, resurface court, new bleachers, a new canopy for those bleachers, new LED light posts around the tennis courts, and new posts and nets for the actual tennis courts. This is what the design will look. I know that in recent meetings, it was voted to add Coach Terry Hoover Tennis Complex, so we make sure it's on the resurfacing there as well when we do that. Resaca Technology. From local funds, we allocated, that's what was allocated initially for facilities to use in the 21-22 school year, which is $1,075,000. Since then, from ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, $6.5 million were allocated, totaling up to $7,575,000. Includes local funds, ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. This project was board approved September 21st, 2021. Where approximate data completion will be the end of this month, November 2025. Pending items is what technology is working right now, the Network Operating Center. They're very close to finishing that up. Recently, we did notice some termite damage to the trusses on Building A, which we are addressing before we move in there. So once we move in there, we don't have to come back and address it. Let's address it right now. When we took over this project, we noticed the parking lot. Ooh, the screen went away. Okay, we'll keep going. The parking lot, the permit had not been approved by the city of Brownsville. There were several changes that needed to be done from the fire marshal, from the landscape department at the city of Brownsville. So we went ahead and did those changes, and now we're just finalizing those changes over here. The permit has been approved with the proposed changes. So that's why we're moving forward and doing those changes to the parking lot and to the landscaping. Landscaping, we're adding trees and brushes that they're asking for. Parking lot, we're moving some gates that need better access for fire department to gain access to the building if there was ever a fire or an emergency going on in the building. The gas line generator, that was approved about a month or so ago by the board for us to grant easement to the Texas Gas. So we're working with Texas Gas to go ahead and get that line built there at for the gas generator at Resaca. Once that's completed, we'll be asking for a final fire marshal inspection, and that should finalize the project, and the technology will be able to move in pretty soon here. The termite treatment is being scheduled for sometime next week. We were initially going to do it this week, but we wanted technology to finish their area so it wouldn't stop any of the work, because they're going to have to close down the area for a couple of days because of the chemicals we'll be using. This is what it's looking today. This was a recent picture. This was a picture from yesterday. That's on your left-hand side is the gate that we had to reallocate. Before it was just a enclosed fence. Now we had to put a entrance there for the fire trucks to be able to go in. On the right side is your network operating center. This is your hot aisle containment that is going to host all the servers there in the network operating center. FNS freezer project here behind the main building. It was board approved January 12th, 20. That's the wrong date. It was not 2025, it's 2023. Make that correction. Budget allocation was initially from Esther, 2 million to 2,005,000. Texas Department of Agriculture, 2.275 million. TRI, 153,000. Must Foundation, 1.5. Initial budget of 5,967,000. Contractor Scoggins. As far as the last meeting we had, the time to finish this project would be February 2026. Recently, about a week ago, we had the foundation poured. That was a major milestone. We've been having lots of rain, delaying the project time after time, because every time they had the foundation ready, it would rain. They had to recompact the dirt and dig up the trenches for the foundation. Contractor will begin erecting the structure late this week, early next week. They're already putting all the steel beams along the side so they can just erect it. They do have to allow the foundation to cure a little bit more. It does take 28 days for cement to fully cure, but it's workable within a week to 2 weeks. You can start working on the foundation. Work on the driveway here in front of FNS. You'll see some work. There's a big hole there. They're working on making that cement, and it's going to be cement. So when those 18-wheelers come drop off food, they don't break the asphalt as we have in other locations. Next bigger milestone will be framing for the office space that's going to go in front of the freezer, followed by the concrete pour of the foundations for that office space. This is our recent pictures of this week. This is the foundation. It's a pretty big foundation. Here where the gentleman standing, that's going to be your actual freezer. Your fridge goes more towards the front area. Here you can see on the left side, they're already getting those beams ready so that whenever the cement's cured, they can start erecting that building right away. Another project that we've been working on is the HVAC chiller replacements for Hannah, Porter, and Canales. Hannah's getting 2 chillers. One's going to be for the Performing Arts Center, the Buchanan. The other one's for the Science Wing. Porter's also getting 2 chillers, one for the L building and one's for the Science building. Canales is getting the 1 chiller that they have replaced. Initial budget, we have a 1.3 million, 1,310,820. Funding source is from the 23, 24, 24, 25 local funds. Each year, the board approved for facilities maintenance to get $3 million for HVAC replacements and roof replacements or roof repairs needed throughout the district. Any emergencies, we identified these emergencies, so we're moving forward with these projects. Board approved the chillers on May 2025. Initially, the Canales chiller was not supposed to arrive to either this week or next week. It arrived early. It arrived last week. It was already installed this past Tuesday. They're working on getting their pre-startup going on this week so we can get that chiller going and move on to the Porter, which will be next during the Thanksgiving break. And then in the Christmas break will be the Hannah chillers. This is the one picture on the left is your old chiller that's been taken out. That chiller went through a lot. When we had a breakdown in a couple months back at Pullum, we went ahead and scavenged parts from that chiller from Pullum, and we kind of rebuilt the one at Canales and kept it going for another year. So, but finally it gave out, so now we're replacing it completely with a brand new chiller. Next project will be your Lopez High School intercom project. That's a budget of $1,050,000 from local funds of the 2024-2025 school year. The contractor's insight. Right now, we're in contract negotiations between the vendor and the district. We've been going back and forth with the legal department as far as the contract, making sure the language fits properly to what the district needs, and make sure that we're protected as a district as we move forward with this project. The interesting part of this project, this will be the first project district-wide where it's fully digital intercom. As you recall, some time back, we did 41 campuses. This was a hybrid system. Part of it is digital, the rest is analog. And we'll get further into depth when we go into the unfunded projects. We'll talk more about intercoms as next steps on the intercoms. Next project will be your Sam Stadium structural repairs. A couple months back, we have Mr. Rubiano come over here and present to the board on the structural integrity of Sam Stadium. While the structural integrity is intact, we do need some repairs for this facility to ensure that that structure can last us another 50 years, 30 years, whatever it is, depending on the maintenance that we put on that structure. The budget for this project is $3.5 million over 3 years. Funding source is local funds. Year one includes 25-26 budget of $1.3 million from local funds. And year one will address the following: rails on both home and visitor side, underside of the bleachers, all the exposed rebar, all the columns that have exposed rebar, and the louvers on the home side. And I'll explain to you, I'll show you pictures on what the louvers and all that is right now. So this is your columns and your inner belly exposed rebar, all that cement that's crumbling, falling apart. We'll be repairing all those, make sure that it's sound and safe and protecting that rebar. On the left is your rails. These are the rails on the very top of the bleachers. As you see this picture, it's completely corroded. We need to get those rails replaced. On the right-hand side is the louvers. The little area next to the press boxes on both sides, those are called louvers, and those need to be also replaced or repaired because there's some cement falling from those. Again, I want to stress that the structural integrity of this building is intact and it's sound for the public to go to these games. Another project is the CT building of phase one. We have $17 million all in for this project. Funding source were the proceeds from the properties that were sold, Longoria and the Cummings building that were sold. This is where the money's coming from. The current work on this is multiple meetings with staff and administration have been to help start the design process. At the same time, Half and Associates is doing surveys on 4 different locations to identify a site where to put the new CTE building. This is going to be coming to the board, and the board will make the decision where to place this CTE building for the future. We have 4 properties we're looking at that are vacant properties, which is a Sportsplex property. And I'll show you pictures where they're located at right now. The Morrison property, the OBLA property, and the Gallegos property. This will be your Sportsplex property. This is right almost behind Lax Fine Furniture on Jose Martin Boulevard. That's where this property is at. We have about 10 acres there, which will suit a CT building. The Morrison property, we have about 19 acres there, 19.24. Just keep in mind that out of those 19.24 acres, part of it is the canal that runs along the property there. The old BLA property right behind maintenance and records and warehouse, a big property there. We call it Portable City. There's a property there that's about 22.66 acres where we can build the CT center as well. The last property we have is between Gallegos and Breeden. We have 10 acres of land there available where we can put the CT center. And again, Half and Associates conducting surveys on all these properties to establish where utilities are, which is going to be the least expensive for the district to build on because of elevations, whether it's flooding zones or there's utilities that need to be brought to those locations. Those will add up the cost of the building. And that's A and B. I believe that's where we stop for questions, right?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Guerrero. Do any of my colleagues have questions, Ms. Garza?
Thank you, Mr. Guerrero. Just pretty much not a question, but more of a comment or recommendation. As we're discussing these projects that the district will be having, are you also creating a list for future years to come as to when they're being replaced, when the future replacement may be, or possible repairs, just so that in the future we do not leave future boards kind of blindsided? Because I want to say that that's pretty much what happened to us as a board when we got elected, that a lot of these facilities were left unattended.
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, through the ESSER projects, ESSER HVAC projects, one of our our engineer firms created a list of all of our units and dated them, and we'll continue to update that list to make sure that we have up-to-date information on those units. Once we replace a unit, we add it there. We take out the old one, replace it with a new one. That way we know when it was replaced. And we're doing the same thing with other issues or other projects throughout the district that we're establishing.
Okay, and this is available to you, I'm assuming, right? Because you are in the lead of this, but in case you're not here or anybody else is not here, who else would have access to that information?
Yes, we have several people that have access to information. We have a draftman that is keeping all this information. Mr. Gabriel Delgado, he keeps all our information, all our floor plans, our designs, all our important documents, warranties. He is the custodian of those records. We also have a copy in our facilities department. Our maintenance department also has access to those. So we have several people that have access to those.
Well, thank you so much, because I know that when the ESSER fund started repairing some of these repairs, I know Dr. Cantu was on a mission to do her own research, and because,
Yes.
we
So-
were blinded on some things. So, but thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ortiz?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. On the allocations for the budgets, and I know that some of these allocations were done several years ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And we know how building materials and, the cost has gone up. Are we staying within those allocated budgets? And if we're not, where are we getting the additional money from?
So yeah, we try to stay as much as possible within those allocated funds. There is things that come up, especially with our buildings being so old. Once we pry open a wall, behind that wall, we'll see unforeseen stuff. There is contingencies embedded in most of our projects, so we take the money. When we all go over our contingencies, we'll have to come to the CFO, to the superintendent, and ask, this is what's going on. Where do we go from here? And usually we have funds allocated from other projects that were left over, that we switch the monies that were left over from that project to cover the expenses that are rising, as far as you said, for the materials.
Okay, so we're not hitting the fund balance.
No, sir. If we hit the fund balance, you would have to approve it first.
Okay. Follow-up question here on Resaca. I know that you indicated that we had a termite
Correct.
issue there. I'm glad to hear that you still said that by the end of this month, we should be done and start completely moving in.
Yes.
But I asked a question, as I think because that is going to cost the district, correct me if I'm wrong, something like $52,000 for the termite?
Correct. I have the numbers here. Let me give it to you. Termite, $56,140.50.
Okay, 56,000. I know that I had asked the question and I have not received an answer on that. So I guess I can ask it now, since we're talking about facilities and specifically Resaca's on here. Where are the monies coming from, the $56,000 to cover this additional expenditure?
Yeah, I believe Ms. Mary was going to answer that.
Good evening, board members. Mr. Ortiz, back in 22-23, the district or the board had approved a list of projects with X amount of money. And when the local funds were set aside, those funds did come from fund balance at that time. So once the construction projects are complete, any money left over is left set aside for any of the projects that the board has already previously approved. So the 22-23 has a little bit of money left over, and that's what's being used to cover the termite damage at Resaca.
And the little bit of money, is it 56,000?
Yes, there was enough to cover the 56,000 and a few, the fire marshal final inspection. So there was enough money to cover.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. One last question. On the CTE building, what is the ideal acreage? I know that we saw several locations here, and some of them had, a lot of acres. Some of them had, not that many acres. What is the ideal acreage for the CTE center that we are proposing?
With my conversation with the architects at ERO, they're proposing at least 10 acres or greater, depending how big we want to go with the CT building in the future.
Okay, so if they're proposing 10 acres, then the acres that show an acreage of 22 acres or more, that would be a location that would be ruled out or would still be considered?
It can still be considered, sir. Like I said, it depends on how big we want to go in the future. You want to, for example, right now, one of the issues we have with Falk Middle School, sorry, we're landlocked. We can't grow anymore in that building because of the detention pond. We can't build in the detention pond. So you want to give yourself that ample space. We can't put up a track there right now because we don't have the space to build the track. So if you have 22 acres, you're building on 10, you do have acres, either you subdivide them later on or you expand your CT building as you move forward.
Yeah, so being proactive and looking at the future. Once again, we don't want to leave other boards, stuck in in the future. So let's say that we are being proactive and we're looking at our CTE center and saying, well, this is what we'd like it to house now, maybe 5 years from now, so that we could choose the correct acreage, because we don't want to say, well, this is what it's going to look like and this is what we want now. And if we choose 10 acres and in the future, we can't expand.
Correct.
So, that's one thing I would recommend to take into consideration. Let's be futuristic here and let's find out what we want 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and then choose and recommend a location that will be able to house that and will allow us to grow.
So ERO, the architects have met with not just Mr. Dorset over at CTE, but with each of the teachers in CTE as well. They've asked them for what they have right now and what they would like to have in the future. So they're compiling all that information so we have a now and a future plan set forth for the district.
And with that, we would then make a recommendation on what
Correct.
site would be the best.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
I wanted just to add, if I
Dr.
may,
Chavez?
Madam. I wanted to add just a little bit of information there as well. Keep in mind that when we've talked about a center like this, that we actually have talked about, yes, building a 10-room classroom, right, or a 10-room building that would house a number of programs. That really would fit what we have. But we've also talked about, beyond that, thinking about 6 additional classrooms so that we think about the future. And so, yes, I mean, I really love the comments you've made with regards to thinking that we have had as well, that we need to plan for the bigger building. We may not be able to do it initially, right, from the standpoint of here, remember, we have the 17 million. Remember that as it relates to the larger building, we were talking about 45 million. So I wanted you all to keep that in mind as well, right? The cost, yes, we're planning for the larger building and an extension to it later on down the road. The other thing I wanted to comment, which again, we want to make sure that we take a look at this construction that we do, renovation that we want to do, really from the perspective that's been mentioned tonight, and that is that when we think of, and I'm going to just use some examples. When we think of doing a project and replacing windows, well, if you're short $50,000 to do 4 more windows, we're not going to cut back and say, oh, we're not going to do those 4 windows, right? We ought to do all the windows. So I'm using that as an example to say that, yes, we have a figure for some of these projects, but a lot of times costs have gone up a bit. And so the thing we've got to think about is, okay, are we going to do less of what we wanted to do? Or do we still want to do the complete project of replacing all the windows? Well, generally speaking, we want to replace all the windows. And yes, you may need to add a few more dollars because costs have gone up. So I wanted to mention that. I know that in the past, there might have been districts that say, well, no, we just have $90,000 to spend and we're not going to spend any more. Well, if you would have spent $10,000 more, you would have gotten the entire thing completed. You know what I'm saying? And so I just wanted us to give some consideration to that if indeed costs have gone up, do we just want to reduce the things that we're going to do? Or do we want to maintain the goal that we set? Generally speaking, we want to maintain the goal. So I just wanted to mention that to the board.
Ms. Stratton?
Mr. Ortiz, I really like the comments that you made about the long-range planning. I think that's very important in terms of building growth, but it's also important in terms of program growth. I would encourage you all to bring in people in the industries that we are preparing students to go into. Community members who are willing to be part of a committee, who are versed in whatever the vocational skill will or agency would be, so that they can tell you what they see on the front, going forward. Because we may think something is going to happen in the industry, but unless we are in that industry, we're in the business of education, and so we need to pull in community members who are versed in that are going to be receiving our students once they graduate. So don't just think about the building, think about the program as well, because some buildings or some classrooms may require a feature that is going to have to equip maybe a piece of equipment that we don't even use right now. And so that way you're not back behind the 8 ball trying to find money or whatever. You've planned long range. In terms of this comment about, do you cut back? I agree that if there should be a break point, Dr. Chavez, in my opinion, in my respectful opinion, where you say, okay, we would like to do this completely, but the break point is too high for us and we can't get the money. So what are we going to do? Either stop at that point or modify the plan a little bit so that you get whatever you can for your money, without going beyond that break point, because then we're breaking the district. And that's not something that any of us or any future board would be willing to do, I'm certain. And so I do have a couple of questions. On page number 6, on your ranking committee, it says limited to district staff only. Is that based on a legal rule, or is that just something that this district chooses to do?
It's something this district chooses to do. Before, they used to have a consultant from, let's say it was an
Oh yeah,
engineer.
don't talk to me about consultants right now. That's not
No,
something
when I say
I want to hear.
consultants, like your engineer or your architect was part of the ranking
Yeah.
committee. But since then, to avoid any favoritism
Uh-huh.
or any backlog, we just limit it to district staff.
Okay. Again, I would draw on possibly having some community members be part of that process. Maybe not necessarily the board, because sometimes the board gets a bad rap and nobody trusts the board, that kind of thing. But it may be a board member and a community member to give some gravitas to the procedure. Because if it's just a local decision, I think limiting to district staff only closes off a lot of things, a lot of thoughts that our community can bring in to make a project better. Okay, I have another question. On the page 7, the criteria and relative weights, is at any point in this weighting system, is there a discussion about the quality of previous work done by the company we're considering?
Yes.
And also the time element. Did they come to us promising a certain time, and did they meet that time frame?
So on your actual breakdown of your ranking, it does give you here years in business, years experience with school construction, similar size, scope, complexity, or project cost. That's number 2. Number 3, project management and superintendent. B, subcontractors. And then 4, quality of work, history of meeting deadlines, ability to resolve project issues, project documentation, closing project punch list completion, and safety record. So
And who gives the data on that? Does the person putting in the bid or the district based on past experience? Because experience can be good or bad,
we use both.
both.
Both, yes.
I think, let's see, I think I may have one more question. No, I think that's it. Thank you so much for
Yes,
your
ma'am.
responses. Thank you,
And
Madam
just
Chair.
if I may add a comment, as far as CTE, I know they have community meetings with our community partners, and they discuss what's coming up, what are the new programs, what's happening in the industry, and that's where they get their feedback for future projects as well.
Yes, I think that our district is on the brink of something very great if we handle this right with the CTE program, because as we all know, the industry has changed a lot around us. And I think that if we are visionaries and use our resources as best we can and bring in community members and just, I'm very excited about what I think the CTE unit is going to bring to our students and to our community. So I ask that you please remain very diligent in what we're doing with that.
Ms. Peña?
Yes, question on the information that you have, that you told Mr. Ortiz, you have several people that have that information in reference to the project. Dr. Chavez has that at his picking, where he can just look at that information somewhere and he doesn't have to track you down and you're busy, you don't answer. Is that information shared with the superintendent's office where you have a place, Dr. Chavez, where you can just open it and see what is going on with the district and not have to depend on finding a person or one of them to give you the information?
He does not, but we can make it available to him. We can put it in a shared drive for him to have it available.
And, okay, because to me, that's kind of like, you're in charge, so you need to, all of you, every employee in this district needs to make sure they tell the superintendent what they're doing.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we're working on asking for forgiveness and not for permission. That's when we get in trouble. So please make sure that everything that is done goes directly to his office, because this way, he knew about it, and if there's a problem, he'll correct it. Otherwise, you'll get blamed completely because you never said anything, and that's not fair. I just want to make sure we take care of that, please. And another question that I have that really has bothered me was Sand Stadium structural repairs. Why was this not a priority before we made that soccer field or that stadium into a soccer field? Why was the structural repairs not a priority before you rebuild the whole track and field to turn it into a soccer field? Because without the structure being good to hold off for 20, 30 more years, we wasted our time in spending those millions on those repairs. So who decided to do that first before they went and took care of the structure so it will hold up for years to come? Because I asked that question and I couldn't get an answer. So why do we do that, Dr. Chavez?
I'll answer briefly. I did mention that the integrity of the structure is intact, which means the structure is safe to use. That's why we decided to move with the field, because the field needed serious work so our kids can play safely in that field. And now we're going back to take care of the structure of the building, the repairs that need to be done. But like I said, the structure is intact. Mr. Rubiano was here. I believe you asked him a couple questions. And yes, the structure is safe to use as it is right now.
Okay, but my question is, as it is right now,
Yes.
I want to know when you retire in 10 years from now, it's going to be fine. And we took care of it now and not wait. Because when, I mean,
Yeah,
you know
if
what
I
I'm
may.
saying? You know what I'm saying?
No, I certainly understand. And that's the reason, again, we brought this 3-year project so that we could make the necessary repairs and extend the life of what we have. Here, ideally, as has been mentioned, we actually can keep the stadium for another 30, 40, 50 years. But we've got to continue to take a look at it every 5 years, every 10 years. We're making these repairs over 3 years. But right as we finish that, 2 years later, we should check it again, right? And keep it up to date. And we agree with you. We've got to continue to pay attention to it and do the inspections at least every 5 years. And then add whatever needs to be added so that we keep it up.
I would say that we do it every 3 years, especially with the way the weather is, the way things are changing, the way the planet is evolving. We need to look at things a little quicker and when they're a little bit cheaper, because the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost, and I want to make sure we take care of it. But yes, I've seen those cracks on that stadium underneath. I've seen that stuff there. So please make it a priority to get this looked at and repaired now, because the sooner you repair it, the less it's going to cost you to repair, because you catch it at a time where it's easier to repair than not.
Yes, ma'am. That's why we brought the project, and we have a 3-year plan for redoing some work there.
Thank you.
Ms. Lopez Valdez?
Yes, first of all, thank you, Mr. Guerrero, for this very good presentation. I appreciate the thoroughness in the RFQ process. I think that shows 100% again to the community on the transparency of this process. I appreciate you showing slide by slide of what it entails and how that the district is a trusted source and why it's so important that we continue to be open with the public. And I appreciate your all's work on this. I also appreciate the ability to see the progress on each of the items. I know that Resaca has been something that has taken a little bit longer, but we all know because of ESSER funds being federally audited, we've had to make sure that everything is as good as possible. So thank you all so much for making sure that we continue to provide the transparency in this. And I appreciate the follow-ups. I also know that you all include a lot of this on the Friday letter, so I appreciate you continuing to do that as well. And thank you, Dr. Chavez, for talking about the CTE Center. I think that it's so important. Brownsville is at the pinnacle of a place where people are looking for businesses, and our district continues to supply the workforce with 34,000 children, and it's essential that we make sure that they're productive citizens of society. And so I hope that we can continue to build this vision of an amazing CTE center for our kids so that they can all continue to work here and have good paying jobs and be able to provide for their families in this community that we so love. So thank you for this presentation. I'm excited to see what's next. Thanks.
Ms. Grantland.
I just wanted to say that, yes, every 3 years for a formal check of facilities is good. But I think that everyone who uses a facility in this district, whether it be the lowest of positions or the highest of positions, I used to always tell my staff, walk through this building as if you're the superintendent. Notice everything. Because preventive maintenance is smart to do.
Mhm.
I don't see it being done in every place in this district, and I think it should. I think that our maintenance department is at a point where they can, and I think you're already starting to do this to train people on the campuses and all, but I think that in conjunction with that, administration needs to also have conversations and dialogue with our administrators everywhere in the district, because preventive maintenance is really important. And so when you walk through a building, don't wait for that 3-year check. Just walk through the building, noticing every single thing.
Thank you. Let's proceed with letter C and D. No pressure, but we do have 5 minutes until the next meeting. So we will probably be going just 5 minutes. We'll
Take your
probably be
time,
going
sir. Take
a
your
little
time.
bit over, but just heads up for those waiting for our next meeting. We still have C and D and a little bit of other stuff. Go ahead, Mr. Guerrero.
Hopefully we'll make it not too painful here. Project on hold. LED projects district-wide, roof replacement district-wide, and Veterans Memorial Stadium upgrades. These 3 projects on hold. I'm going to give you what the project entails, and then I'm going to give you 2 different options that we've come up with that we can go for each project. Projects, LED projects district-wide. 3 schools were done. Perez, Egley, and Burns were all done. They were retrofitted to LED lights. The balance available on this project is $1,166,961. These are TRI funds. The approximate cost to upgrade lighting in the campus is $5 per square foot. Your average elementary is 90,000 square feet. So if I were to pick one school, let's say Peña, for example, it's about 90,000 square feet. It will cost me about $450,000 to retrofit that whole school with LED lights. So I said I was going to give you 2 options. Keep that in mind, $450,000. So option A will do a total retrofit for 2 elementaries. So we would have to decide what is the 2 worst off elementaries as far as our lighting, and redo those 2 elementaries completely. Or option B, only do common areas such as hallways, cafeterias, libraries, band halls, and we're able to do more schools than just doing those 2 schools. So those are 2 options there, and we'll come back when we have those questions. Second project that's on hold is a roof replacement district-wide. The budget that we have for this, $1,655,000. These are TRI funds. Average cost to replace a roof is $35 a square foot. Pick the school in random, Olivera Middle School. We have 124,442 square feet. The cost to replace the roof at Olivera will be $4,355,470,000. And that's just, if we open up the roof and we don't see anything underneath that needs more attention, that will balloon right away. 2 options. Replace partial roof of Olivera, maybe a fourth of it with the monies we have, or reallocate these funds to maintenance to do repairs district-wide as we need them for our roofs. Veterans Memorial Stadium upgrades. So there's a budget of $960,043. These are local funds from the 22-23 school year. The project was initially bidded out, and due to not agreeing with the vendors that submitted the bids, there was 22 vendors, which we've had some issues in the past with. We decided to put the project on hold. The project consisted of a new ticket booth, press box upgrades, a new scoreboard, a field logo rebranding, and an upgrade to the sound system. From all these items, 2 things were done, which got a new field logo, and the sound system was updated. Again, 2 options: proceed with the project as is, we bid it out. Hopefully, we get a good vendor out there to redo this project. Or option B, reallocate the funds to address the track at Veterans Early College High School that we're going to go over right now on unfunded projects. Unfunded projects: Veterans track resurfacing, intercoms district-wide, Central Administration Building drainage problems, and Sam Stadium press box technology upgrades. Veterans Memorial, the track resurfacing. The track is nearing its end of life. It's recommended to replace the track, to redo a whole track every 10 to 15 years. In between, you want to do resurfacing. I reached out to several vendors, got prices, see how much it would cost the district to do both, either resurface or redo completely. The cost to resurface is about $300,000. The cost to redo the track is $500,000. For both options, this does not include any contingencies, any unforeseens that come up in the project. If we take off the track and we see a bad foundation, well, we have to go in to repair it, price will go up. The cost will go up. Intercoms district-wide. Recently, we did 41 campuses, as explained earlier. Out of those 41 campuses, they were all hybrid. Part were digital, part were analog. Currently, Lopez will be the first project that will be 100% digital. Currently, technology is struggling in keeping up with the hybrid system due to lack of parts to repair the old system, the analog system. And before you ask, yes, we already gone to the closed campuses and we scavenged for parts through all those campuses. We already took parts from every campus that's closed, and we're reusing them at all the other campuses. Some of these issues that are coming up. Also, we have warranties. All the products are in warranty. They're breaking down. We have to send the component back to the manufacturer, get it repaired, send it back. We don't have spare parts to address this issue right now. So we're also asking to possibly get some additional funds to be able to have some parts in stock so we can repair these intercoms rapidly. Moving forward, those 41 campuses that we did hybrid, we need to come back and address them and do them fully digital. So that's going to be an added cost. Central Administration Building drainage. Recently on Champions Boulevard, that's the street that goes between CAB and the stadium. With recent rains, we had drainage issues. The water was being stagnant there for about a day. It was not draining properly. The city of Brownsville and PUB assisted. They brought in their cameras. They went into the drainage system. They did notice that part of the manhole, part of the drainage system is collapsed at one area about 35, 40 feet into the drainage system. We have 2 options: break apart the parking lot, redo the drainage system there, or use Champion Boulevard. Right at the end of Champions Boulevard on the Jefferson side, there's a brand new manhole that the city of Brownsville installed. We already talked to the city. We can connect to that manhole, and it'll be cheaper for the district and faster. Those are 2 options that I have here. This is a picture of the drainage. This is about 6 hours after it stopped raining. The water stagnant there, it just stays there. People are having a hard time crossing back and forth to CAB. We did add 2 large speed humps there so people can use that to cross over to CAB while we get funds to repair this issue. Now for the stadium press box upgrades, I'm going to call Todd or Dr. Catu.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Gonzalez and board members, Dr. Chavez. We were tasked with looking at Sam Stadium and some of the renovations. And one of the things I'm going to go quickly over, because I know I heard you talk about the time. We know that Sam Stadium is a landmark. It's a gathering place. We know that it's a beating heart of our community. So one of the things that we're looking at is what you guys have been talking about is preparing for the future. What are some things that we can do, not only for today, but preparing for the future? So I'm going to skip the vision, the mission and the vision statement, but obviously we want facilities that all students can enjoy good sportsmanship, leadership, and competitive excellence. We have our one team, one dream. We have all the different departments that use the stadium. Sometimes we think it's just for athletics, but we know that our PD, we have computer services that's involved. We've got maintenance department. There's a lot of departments. So there's a proposal that was submitted. We were asked to put something together regarding what some of the needs that are at Sam Stadium. So on August 6th of 2025, there was about 5 departments that came together. And we discussed the necessary upgrades at Sam Stadium. And there was 6 items that we discussed. One was the press box maintenance needs, network infrastructure, remaining enhancements, and then the procurement to make sure that we determine which is the best procurement method. And then, of course, the most important one is the identification of funding. So there's some, in the athletic department, there's some urgent press box upgrades. We need some of these things. So for example, the full-scale network infrastructure. So when the Sam Stadium was renovated, it looks beautiful. We have paint, we have everything. However, the network infrastructure to be able to project using the latest technology that we have, the fiber optic cable. We added to a couple things in this plan. It wasn't just about Sam Stadium. It was also bringing in KBSD. KBSD obviously streams our games. And one of the things that they mentioned to us is that they have very old equipment. We're talking about 10, 11, 12-year equipment. And so when you look at having old equipment and new infrastructure, for example, the network, the latest in fiber optic cable for networking, then you've got 2 combinations, an old and a new system, may compromise the warranty issues on it. So we looked at, one of the things that we had talked about was the lockers. And I know that some of you have had a chance to see the new lockers. The lockers, we are buying them in phases, and we can continue doing that if the board wishes to. However, right now they cost $50,000. We're in year 2, and it'll take us a total of 4 years. So it's something we can continue to do, or we could buy them all together. The quote was given to us in August for $149,000. There's 100,000 scoring data strip on the north wall. If you notice that the Sam Stadium has some walls on the side, and so there's some data strips that we want to be able to put there. There was some cabling that was run. However, there was no cameras allocated. So in order for us, once the soccer season begins and students start playing soccer, then we need those cameras on those walls. We also considered repurposing the Landreth building, and we looked at different things. So, for example, a PD substation, maybe retail space that our CTE students could sell T-shirts and some of the items for the school. We already talked about the rebar. The press box upgrades, there's a couple things that we looked at the press box. If you have not been inside the press box, there is a lot of cabling that is hanging that one of the things that Dr. Chavez asked is it working? And the response is, yes, that cabling is working. However, that cabling is antiquated. And what we have been told by KBSD staff is that it is on life support. And so we included it here as part of it, even though it's not necessarily athletics, but we're combining the different needs because all of these items are needed to have a better system. We do have some roof leaks there, and other structural issues there. One of the things that we looked at is our outdated technology. This is the software that KBSD uses, and we've listed it here. It's at a cost of $64,000, a little bit over $64,000. It will need the wiring and the software hardware for this. This is similar to what it looks like. The electronics, this is actually what it looks like. And some of you may remember that in our boardroom here, we had those old, very large pieces of equipment that are very antiquated. The recommendations for upgrades, this is the latest system, the Formetco Sports. And in addition to buying the hardware, we would need the software, which is a total cost of $10,616. There is a speaker mesh that is, and I don't know if you've noticed, but when we're at the stadium, sometimes the speakers go in and out. There's some issues there that need to be replaced. That's another cost of $2,000. The recommendation, the TriCaster is allowed to do instant replay. Now, is this a true need? No, we don't have to do instant replay, but it's something that I know that our community likes. We put it in here, but is it something that we can put possibly a hold? Yes, but I know our community loves to see the instant replay. That's a feature that we're not able to do right now. That's a cost of $24,000, a little bit over $24,000. Also, the software to allow us to switch from live feed and commercials to the scoreboard. This is, as you know, we do have, for example, for the Everyday Matters, we do have vendors that have purchased, and we also have additional vendors that have purchased commercials, and they pay for these. And so the software to be able to switch from live and commercials, that's at a cost at about $16,000. So the live scorebug, this is a program that allows us to have the scoreboard live feeds, and it'll automatically change a score on real time. One control for the entire scoreboard. Right now, there's several controls that do that. That's a minimal cost of $1,800. Black Magic Converter, it's used to convert the signal from fiber optic to the coaxial cable, and because the equipment runs on coaxial cable, and in order for us to connect fiber optic, we need this converter, and that's at a cost of $3,000. The Black Magic optical module adapter 13, it's needed to hook up the fiber optic cable and insert it into the converter. So in the spirit of upgrading the infrastructure, instructional technology, we had our technology team there, and they looked at the modern technology to meet and exceed the standards that we need, that today's standards. And we're looking at fiber optic cabling, which is the latest, and upgrading our press box infrastructure. And the network upgrade, the wireless hardware, you see the cost there, the wireless install, the recabling of the press box. This would be eliminating all those old cables that are hanging and so forth, and recable it, and the audio and fiber connection installation. So if you notice, we broke it down into several categories. It is not just the technology piece, it is KBSD, and it is cabling and wiring that was not allocated for when the Sam Stadium was built. So one of the things is, we know we have limited resources. Our goal is to install up-to-date technology equipment. We want to continue addressing the structural priorities. The allocation from the 1.3 set aside for concrete repairs is under consideration. And this is, we had Mary Garza join us because we wanted to see what are some options for funding. And one of the things that she talked about was possibly taking some funding that has been allocated for facilities that may not happen. And Mr. Guerrero talked about some of the possible tracks because there is no space. For example, there is a retention pond. So swapping those funds that are already there and putting them into this, so we would not touch the fund balance per se. So what you see here is a summary of the fiscal implications. We are looking at a total of $743,908. And in speaking to Ms. Garza, she talked about how there is that funding that we could swap. Now, again, this is something that would requires your approval. This would bring Sam Stadium to a level of a much better level not only for today, but for the future, because these are infrastructure needs that are permanent and will impact future use of the stadium. So at this time, I'd be happy to entertain any questions when it comes to the Sam Stadium improvements. We do have Coach Leal here who can give more specific detail. I also have our computer services team here also. And I know that KBSD was also available to answer any questions, specific questions.
I just want to briefly say, I personally don't agree with the swapping the money from our campuses. I think if we budgeted, throw out a number, if we budgeted 6 million for one campus for athletics, we can't give them a track, let's give them something else for $6 million. That's my personal opinion. I'll turn it over to Mr. Ortiz.
Yes, I'm looking at my notes here. I'm looking at the projects on hold, and Mr. Guerrero did give a presentation, and my question is the plan of action. And I believe that you do have a plan of action because you have several options for those projects that are on hold. How soon will a decision be made on what option we're going to go with, and who's going to be involved in that decision making?
So the sooner we make a decision, the better on these funds. That's why I'm presenting to the board today. Make sure that we get input from you all, make sure that we're headed the right direction. As soon as we make the decision, we get guidance, we can start making those decisions with the campus administration, with our facilities team, maintenance team, and make sure that we're headed the right direction.
Okay, but I am talking about the projects on hold, only
Correct.
those,
Yes.
okay? Now, as far as the unfunded projects, I heard you come up with some options or some ideas that y'all were thinking of, okay? How soon can y'all come up and bring it to us with some of the ideas and options that y'all have to get the money that y'all need to be able to have these projects, happen?
We can address all those issues here and bring it up to the next board meeting and keep present options.
Okay,
Let me, if I may speak to a couple of those things here. Let me say that, yes, I mean, with regards to where we can find some dollars, we will take a look at that. But let me also emphasize that there aren't a lot of dollars available, right, from the standpoint, and just to cover a few things that relate to whether there are dollars available or not. Keep in mind that the current budget, we budgeted and anticipated needing $17 million. And $17 million, we said, okay, let's use fund balance for that. So we start at 113 million, and so you bring that down, right? Now here, I'm thinking that amount's going to be less than that. And so let me use $15 million. So we have 113. We have to use $15 million for this year's expenditures. So now we're at 98 million. $98 million moving forward into next year. Well, are we going to repeat using $15 million? I'm not recommending that. I would suggest that we maybe look at using $8 million, not 15, but using $8 million brings us down to $92 million in our fund balance. Now, can we find a few dollars? Yes. Can we find $1 million, $2 million? Probably so. And I'm telling you this from the aspect of here, we will take a look at what dollars we may have available and that we might recommend to you. It's not going to be a large amount. And we also have some other places to look at, right? There may be some other funds over here that we haven't yet spent. So we can dedicate a little bit, but that's going to be a lower amount. And I'm telling you that so that, we don't leave tonight thinking, oh, we're going to spend $5, $10, $15 million towards these projects. No, we're not. We don't have the dollars. And I just wanted all of us to understand and know that piece. We'll take a look at how much we can use. And obviously here we have a lot of great needs. And I don't mean to sound bad about this, but the bond election not passing didn't help any at all. So I'll stop there.
okay, just my final comment on this one. Yeah, options, okay? I am kind of leery about dipping into that fund balance. So, the sooner the better.
Yeah, we presented 3 options for those 3 unfunded projects or the 3 on hold projects. So those we can start with as soon as we get a clear direction on that. Reallocating those funds to those other projects or reallocating it to those other needs, and we can move forward with that pretty soon.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that, like Ms. Gonzalez said here, that we don't hurt other programs or other departments with monies that they need to do these other projects.
Question?
Ms. Scranton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going back to the LED projects district-wide, I like it. Thank you very much that you're presenting options A and B to us for consideration. I think that's very good thinking. As far as if you have to make a choice to do lighting in a hallway, I'd rather have it be done in a classroom. You know, lighting is very important to students that are learning, and some of them even have visual acuity that's better than others. And so rather than to do common areas, I would recommend very strongly that we give the classrooms the priority, just because it makes for better instruction. Okay. Now, the other one on the intercoms district-wide on page 53, this is a safety issue that we're talking about here. A teacher needs to access an intercom quickly in an emergency. I know we have other things that they have for quick alert, but I think intercoms are very important for communicating to the the school office, the campus office, or whoever for responses. And so I think that the intercoms district-wide needs to be given a fairly high level of importance. And of course, there are some schools that I'm sure intercoms are in worse shape than others. And so you would know that because you're looking at all of this. Now, going on to page 56, the Sam Stadium's press box. Our community likes a lot of things, but they didn't vote for the bond issue. And so I think that we need to be very realistic. This is pie in the sky. I love the presentation, but this presentation gives us something that, yes, instant replay is great. How many times does a flag go down really where the refs can't really tell whether it was a violation or not, you know, on a game? I think that that's a luxury. I think there's a lot of things here that are luxury. Now, hanging cables, that's not good. Fiber optics, if they're to connect with that very expensive scoreboard, maybe that's a priority. The network, knowing what technology is doing lately and how fast it's moving, that might be something that would be of importance. But you have given us a plethora of pie in the sky requests. And I know that you were doing it to give us a clear picture, and I appreciate that. But I don't want anyone to leave here thinking, at least in my opinion, that I would approve spending this much money on something that is pie in the sky when classrooms are suffering. I give priority to the classrooms, the students, the teachers, and I think we need to bring our feet back to the ground on this particular area.
Ms. Peña?
Yes, and I noticed that Dr. Cantu made a statement that said that funds were not allocated when the stadium was built. Do you mean way in the old day when you and I weren't around when it was built? Or did you mean when we just, you meant the renovations? Okay, that threw me off. I'm like, we didn't have that money back then, nor did we need it. Okay, thank you. And then fiber optics. Right now, also fiber optics are coming into our city. Right now, they're real inexpensive. So we need to jump at it and look at that and how we can get the best bottom dollar price. Then I also heard Dr. Cantu say that we can replace the speakers at $2,000. Is that a correct statement? She said $2,000. Go back and play it. And it really caught my attention because that's pretty inexpensive. Is that correct? At $2,000? See, that's something that. Thank you. Clarify that.
Hello, good afternoon. Ms. Peña, that is the speaker mesh.
Okay.
The one that covers the speakers from the weather, the rain.
And that's only
everything.
$2,000?
It's $2,000 for those, ma'am.
Okay, well, see, to me, that's a very reasonable price. So something we can look at. Thank you, sir. And one thing that I really, the upgrades to the press box, okay, I can see that. Is that a priority? Please forgive me. No. It bothered me when you made a statement when you said, we can turn around and fix the roofs at Oliveira Middle School, who's having a lot of issues, or we can do that money and take it somewhere else. So I agree with Ms. Gonzalez. When you made that statement, go back and listen to it. We cannot take the priority of fixing a roof who has a major issue so we can do something else, because you wouldn't like that to be done at your house. I want to fix my house roof. No, let's go fix the store's roof down the street for the same money they were going to use to fix my roof. So I need to make sure we prioritize our schools. We take care of those campuses. Yes, we want to do a lot of stuff to the stadium, but those are luxuries, ladies and gentlemen, because of the fact that we don't use that every day like we use the classroom and the schools. And for the public to hear us say that we're comparing one to the other, they're like, wait a minute, they're not making my children a priority. That's the message we don't want to send out. We don't intend to send out. But inadvertently, that's the message we send out, because it's very important that we take care of the school's needs first. And I know that we want to do this for the stadium, we want to do that. And I know our PIO and our TV station, they want to, yes, I'm all for you guys, but not at the expense of putting our schools and our needs of the front line to the side. You see, because to me, that's kind of extra, Dr. Chavez. And we are going to be graded on how we treat our front line, our students and our teachers and our buildings where we house the students to educate them every day, over spending money at the stadium that we could if we had the money. We're saying we don't have the money. So why are you bringing it up if we know you don't have the money? The message we send out to the community is that we're not putting our children, our teachers, our schools as a top priority. And that's not what we mean to do. Am I correct? We don't mean to do that. Am I right?
Correct.
You don't mean to turn around and say, we're not going to fix the roofs at this school, but let's do it somewhere else. Again, I'm with Ms. Gonzalez. You need to take care of what you need to take care of when it needs to be taken care of as priorities. And I like the stadium, don't get me wrong. I love it going there, getting all that stuff done. But right now, that is not a priority, because when our funds are cut short and you say you're running out of money, then priority is going to be your schools and your children and your education. Everything else is kind of an extra, because that's what we would do at our house. We take care of our priority before we turn around and go extras. So that's just my point. Thank you.
So
Ms.
when it-
Franlin,
when it came to the roof, when it came to the roof replacement, I never said to reallocate those funds to the stadium. The two options that I presented was do a partial repair of Oliveira roof, or B, reallocate those funds to maintenance to do repairs district-wide on the roofs, not to take it to the stadium.
No,
I
no,
just
no,
wanna
no,
clarify
no,
that.
no, no. I didn't
Yeah.
mean stadium. I mean, like you said, do a partial repair and take no, fix it all. So you wouldn't do that to your house.
We need 4
Yeah, I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying, but we need to fix it all, because guess what happens when you do that way? I have construction electricians in our family, master electrician. When you fix it only halfway and you come back and do the rest, the one that you fix is already being affected by the part that you didn't fix. So
May I speak to that for a minute? Let me say that unfortunately, the situation that we're in is that we need a great number of repairs and replacements out there. And so here, I mean, I would think, right, that as you think of, do I go and replace one roof, or do I address 15 schools that need a little bit of improvement at the corners or the sides of the wall? Well, I want to address the 15 schools, right? Now, what that means is, no, I'm not going to be able to replace this half of the roof up here. I'm going to go to 15 schools and repair that little corner over there, and this little side over here, and this back side over here. And so that's really the point. And here, part of the option here is so that, yes, we as board, we as administrators, we as community understand where we are and the actions that we're going to need to take. So I hope the information was helpful, so that, yes, it provides good guidance to us on this is where we'd like to spend these funds. We want to address the 15, 18 schools as opposed to one roof.
Ms.
Wait,
Franlin?
let me go back to what he said real quick, because I'm not finished. It's very important, and I hear what you're saying. Oliveira's in dire need. For me to hear, I want to fix a little bit here, a little bit there, instead of wasting it all on one. Oliveira is in dire need. Instead of, I'm hearing it, you're saying it in black and white. We're not going to take care of the dire need. Let's take a little bit of everything. I can't say that. I can't do that. Let's take care of the dire needs first. And I have heard and have parents call me. I've had parents pull their children out of that school. It's in dire need. And for us to not give them their priority, and we want to go to other little campuses, a little here, a little there, it makes us look bad, and it makes it look, because favorite word, that's what the board said. No, that's not what the board's saying. Jessica didn't say that, Ms. Ortiz didn't say that, Ms. Granite didn't say it, I didn't say that, Denise didn't say that, neither did Daniela. So no, our priorities are our priorities. and making sure the schools doesn't fall on those children is a priority. Little things can wait.
Okay, I still have a list of people and we're already running a little late. Ms. Grantlin?
I'll be brief. I will always encourage you to bring the big vision to us. I think it's important that we see what the potential is. Now, when it comes to being realistic, we will have to say, you know what, that would have been really good, but we just can't do it right now. In regards to the roof, I think that the dire need patch needs to be done. I agree. If the rest of that roof is not in dire need, then I totally agree. We need to make sure that we have enough to cover the small leaks as well. Because if we run out of money, how is it going to be for us to tell a school, the parents, the principal, the teachers, sorry guys, put trash cans up. We can't patch that small patch because we've run out of money. That's not acceptable, and it's just not even within the realm of reality. So I do believe that I agree with both sides of the issue. If Oliveira has a section that is really, really bad, replace that section. But if you're going to replace the entire roof and there's a part of the roof that can continue at least maybe 1 or 2 more years with small patches, then that would be the prudent thing to do. But always bring us the big vision, because that's what we want. Eventually we'll get there. Thank you.
Ms. Garza?
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. On page 52, Mr. Guerrero, I know we have here as the track at Veterans Early College High School, right? It's nearing its end of life. That's going to be our now track and field as what we used to do at Sam Stadium, right? We have removed it. Now, a recommendation would probably be maybe BISD track and field at Veterans Memorial. And the only reason I'm making this recommendation up is because when people see veterans, the community seems to think that we're only prioritizing Veterans Memorial High School, and that is not the case. This is now our field number 2 that hosts many events district-wide. So it's just a recommendation, maybe just wording it, naming it differently, only because we don't want our community to think that we're prioritizing one high school over another.
Ms. Lopez Valdez?
Thank you for this information. I agree with Grantlin on this, us prioritizing safety. Safety is number 1 for our kids. So I agree that making sure that we are addressing the needs of the classrooms where our kids are housed, I think that's actually, that should always be number 1 priority. I think it's a very sobering conversation to have after what has just happened in the failure of the bond. I think anybody who is up here knows that to prioritize children was Proposition A. Proposition A was HVACs, roofs, everything that is essential, CTE. And so I think that making tough decisions is where we're at as a community. And so being transparent is at this point is what you're doing and giving us the amount of the budget and what decisions that are now going to have to be made because we do not have those resources. So I ask for the community and the public to stand with us and to help us make these decisions. I thank you, Dr. Chavez and Mr. Guerrero. I think the message is clear that safety is number 1. So let's make sure that that is the priority.
Okay, Mr. Guerrero, you have one more item.
Make it quick.
You got this. We still have public comment
So
though.
before we get to that item, I did want to go over our facility staff. We do have a vacancy in director. We have currently one project manager. He's back here, Mr. Martin Espinosa. We do have a second vacancy has been there for a couple of years now. We do have 2 building inspectors, Mr. Jose Hernandez and Mr. Jose R. Garcia. And we have 1 administrative assistant. Just wanted a full disclosure on that, on the staff that we have.
Thank you.
Now, the last area is campus capacity versus enrollment, and I'm off the hook because this is Mary's.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Ms. Gonzalez, members of the board, Dr. Chavez. Capacity versus campus capacity versus enrollment. Dr. Lee Garcia was going to be here and start working on the preliminary projection information. But he was unable to attend. So let me go over the information. Basically, it's an overview of current enrollment by campus, the comparison to facility capacity, identified campuses under capacity and campuses over capacity. And I'm sorry that it is very small. It's tiny. But basically, for example, and you have all of the elementaries in this particular page, and you were given a handout also, right? So Aiken Elementary has square feet of 87,146. It was built in 1994. It has 49 classrooms or labs, or combination of. The student capacity for that size campus was 1,127. The current year enrollment is 599. The occupancy percentage is 53%. And then the projected enrollment for 26, 27, 27, 28, and 28, 29, and 29, 30. It's projected to go up a little bit to 657, then 681, 718, and 745. The next campus, for example, is Benavides. Benavides was square feet is 85,967. The year that it was built, 1998. It has 51 classrooms, student capacity 1,020. The enrollment for this year is 811. It's at 80% capacity, but it's projected to go down. If we scroll down to El Jardín Elementary, the square feet is 80,539. It was built in 1925. Classroom capacity is 53. The student capacity is 1,166. Current enrollment is 395. The occupancy percentage is 34. The projection for the next 4 years, it's for it to decrease in enrollment, 364, 350, down to 352 and 353. So as you can see, we have several schools that are below 40% capacity. You have one at 35, another one at 34. You have, without mentioning any names, but if you go down the list, there's one at 36, another one at 39, 37, 33, 39. So there's some campuses that are above the 50% capacity. Those that are above 50%, you have one at 80, you have one at 54, you have another one at 54, 68, 55, 55, 56, 57, 64, and 63. So that's just to give you a field of the campuses that we have, when they were built, the projected enrollment. As most of the campus, there are a few campuses that are going to increase in enrollment, but the majority of them are going to be decreasing in enrollment at the elementary level. At the middle school level, it's basically the same concept, is to tell you where the enrollment is, when the school was built, how many classrooms. For example, the first middle school listed, Bestedo Middle School, has square feet of 161,556. It was built in 1993. It has 64 classrooms. It was built for capacity of 1,600 students. The current enrollment is 511. The occupancy percentage is 32%, and it's projected to be declining in enrollment to 451, 405, 395, and 371. Based on the middle schools, the ones that are operating at higher than 50%, we have one at 51, we have another one at 73, we have one at 83, one at 74, and one at 53. The remaining ones are below 50. We have, well, Bestedo was at 32. There's another one at 49. There's one at 30%, and one at 48%. As far as the middle schools, most of them, we do have fall fluctuating where it's going to increase and then decrease. The others seem to be on a decreasing um, decline. Garcia's declining, Malucio has declined, Manzano fluctuates, it increases and decreases. Oliveira, same thing, increase, decrease. Perkins, um, increase, decrease. Still fluctuating, but going down. Stillman, decreasing, and Vela, increasing, decreasing. For the high schools, we have 6 comprehensive high schools and Brownsville Early College High School. Most of them were all built in the 1972, Hannah 1965, Porter 72, Pace 73, Rivera 86, Lopez 92, Rivera 86, and Veterans 2010. You see the enrollment, the capacity enrollment for most of the campuses were either 3,000 or over 22,000. The enrollment for this year, Hannah 1849, Lopez 1611, Pace 1583, Porter 1437, Rivera 2007, Veterans 2268. All of our campuses at the high school are operating at above 50%, but as you can see, we have some that are starting to be at 60, 65%. The campuses are projected to be decreasing in enrollment for the next 5 years. As we begin the budget process come January, February, Dr. Lee Garcia is going to be finalizing the projections based on the decrease that happened this year, because he anticipated that we were going to lose 1,100 students, and we ended up losing 1,700 students. Some of it was due to the federal immigration laws that were transpiring, but it wasn't as significant as we thought it was. He estimate based on how the coding was done for the kids that left to other countries, that only amounted to about 300 kids out of the 1,700 student loss. Next year, vouchers come into play. We still don't know what the effect of vouchers are going to be. So he's going to be looking at that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Garza. Do my colleagues have questions regarding enrollment and capacity? Ms. Lopez Valdez?
Thank you again for another sobering conversation here. I've already seen voucher ads out there, so just trying to make sure we're prepared for this. And I wanted to know, have we looked into planning and zoning with the city on where we're at? I know that the Buena Vida community, there's a new project going on downtown. I don't know if we've looked at numbers in terms of that. And so that's my first question. Have we looked in planning and zoning? And if not, can we look into that? I know that Dr. Greg Garcia does a wonderful job, but I think that if we know the city's projections and where they plan to build housing or any other types of developments, we should look into that. as we make very difficult decisions before us. And then in terms of the actual federal government putting this having kids move to other countries, right? Do we have an estimate on what areas these were, or do we have any? Can we attribute that to anything? Is there any other method of tracking this?
Currently, as far as what Dr. Lee Garcia mentioned this week, is that he looked at the coding based on the PEAMS data that is done at each of the campuses. And he only identified, based on that coding, there was only like about 300. When he works on his projections, he does communicate with the city as far as any developments that may be going out throughout the city, any future projects or activities or permits for either residential or apartments. And he takes that into consideration when he's doing the projections for the next 5 years, including childbirth rates. He does go to the city and he looks at the birth rates that happened. And one of the reasons that he mentioned for this year's decline is that and I'm just going to give you a number. We had 1,000 seniors graduate, but we only had 500 pre-K kids coming in. So because we're graduating more kids than the new grade level coming in, that is one of the major reasons why we have a decline in enrollment, in addition to the mobility as people move to new neighborhoods that are within the city of Brownsville, but outside the BISD jurisdiction, plus the availability of the different educational programs that are available within the city besides the school district.
Ms. Gratland?
Yes, you kind of alluded to one of the questions that I had, and that was the patterns, the feeder patterns that we see, but from elementary to middle to high school, and where the gaps are and what's going to be going into the next grade level, because that's going to determine a lot of the decisions we're going to have to make. The other thing is that, and you've also explained how you all arrived at those projections. That was another question that I had on how what crystal ball are you looking at to see what's going to happen? But this is going to be a very laborious decision-making process for us. And it's probably one that we're going to have to make some tough decisions all the way around. And I thank you for putting the work in.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ortiz?
Yes, I go back to recruitment. We do have the data that tells us where these students go. Is that correct?
Yes, through some of the PEAMS coding, it does identify whether the student moved to another district or out of the city or out of the country or out of the state.
It'd be good to target the students that go within the city, and I'm talking charter schools and so forth. I mean, why don't we start a campaign, okay, to start reaching out to those families, to those parents. You know, I know that the district is doing a great thing as far as showing what we offer here in BISD. And these charter schools don't hold a candle to BISD as far as the programs that we have and what we offer our students. They may be leaving for different reasons, you know, and it'd be good to, you know, maybe, you know, part of the recruiting process. And I know I've been harping on recruiting for the last 3 years, you know, so, you know, going out and talking to the parents and, you know, maybe sit down with them and, you know, show them what we have, you know, and if they're elementary students, what we have at the elementary level. We have so many programs, and going into the middle school, it's even more. Going into the high school, it's even more. So, you know, if we know where they're at, let's find out, why are you leaving? You know, why don't you want to stay with BISD? And, try recruiting these students back. At least, like I said, the ones that leave town, well, obviously, the
Right.
ones that go to another country, obviously, but the ones that we're losing to other schools here, well, like I said, the charter schools and so forth here within the district, it's just a recommendation.
Ms. Grantland?
You have brought up a point that's very important. We don't see athletes leaving too much. We don't see fine arts people, the students that like fine arts, leaving too much. We have programs that no one can compare to in those areas. And so that brings me to the thought that I have had for quite a while now, is that as we strengthen our educational programs, there's so many other strategies that we can bring in, so many other cutting edge things that we can bring into the classrooms. I was very impressed with that award that was presented to those very little children that came in with that. I can't remember what the name of the award was, but seeing those children in that video manipulating their technology the way they did and being engaged like that, that's impressive. Who wants to leave that?
The Apple Award.
Oh, the Apple Award. That's right. That's easy to remember. Who wants to leave something like that? And so we need to get that to catch fire in every single classroom. I'm not saying necessarily just that type of program. There's so many things we can do. And I mean, cutting edge is what it's going to take, because we're not losing athletes. We're not losing fine arts people. Thank you.
Good point.
Yes, sir. And I see the enrollments and the children that leave to other schools. But I've gone to some of these charter schools, and they have a lot less student enrolled than some of our schools. And for us to constantly come public, we're going to have to close schools. We're going to have to close schools. So I'd like for you to get us a budget of how many employees are in main office or at CAP, and the salaries of each employee, the description of the jobs. Because I would never, ever go and close the school before I turn around and see where vendors, tell us how many vendors we have in the district, what they actually do, and how much we're paying. Because to me, that's very important. Closing schools is not the answer. You're only destroying the district, and that's not fair. That's not right. We're the best district. People are coming to us to have us show what we do, and our kids are excelling. Look at Porter High School. Doctors, lawyers, judges, scientists, the top notch. Look at these children. They came from schools that some of the schools have smaller numbers. If these schools that are here and that have a small percentage of students, but their rating is fantastic and their students are doing excellent, why on God's green earth would you even consider closing it? Because when you do that and you say that and you sit here in public and tell the community, we're pretty much saying that they're not important to us, and they are. It's not the size of the school, it's the quality of the school. So I'm asking, please look anywhere else to see where we can maybe shorten our budget, cut our budget, make up for the loss before we touch the schools. Because for that reason, you are here. For that reason, we are here. So to me, closing schools is at the end of the list, at the bottom of the list. Shouldn't be anywhere up here. And so it's so easy to say that. And when the parents hear this, they call me. They've called me. Ms. Maria, is it true they're going to close the school? Is it true they're going to close? Sir, ma'am, because it's all over the Facebook. It's all over the news. Please, Dr. Chavez, let us not destroy our community. These are children that want to come here. These are schools that are doing excellent. That should not be coming out, please forgive me, of our mouths. Let's see where else we can cut, how many positions we have. Before you start talking, hold on. We turn around, because I know I know you already. So just a minute, sir. I want to make sure that we cut in places that we can afford to cut and not hurt our families, our children, and our community. Because closing our schools hurts our community 1,000%, and they love it here. And I don't want to say, well, you only have 400, but these are top students. Doesn't matter. I want you to have more. No. It's the quality of the student, not the size of the class. And that's what I want you to please, please, please look at. The community right now is trembling because the word out is we're going to have to close school. No, sir. I don't believe in that. I pray to God that we find a better way to do it and not close the schools, because the community is counting on you, Dr. Chavez, and so are we. So let's find a way to do it without closing our schools and hurting our children.
I'm sorry, Dr. Chavez, before you respond, I would just like to briefly remind the community regarding funding formulas is that they're absolutely totally different for charter schools versus public school system. That's first and foremost. And let's just keep in mind that what we are talking right now is campus capacity versus enrollment. Dr. Chavez.
It's hard to follow up that kind of statement, right? No, actually, I'm talking about on my right side over here. So here, let me say this. When we think of all of our schools, and I'm talking about our elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, do we have great schools? We have great schools. And so let's not say that when we move students, they're moving to a worse school. They're moving to a great school in our district. Let me also say with regards to the closing of schools, remember that if you look at our history, and this is Brownsville ISD's, and it's brief, it's not going to be a detailed review, right? We were close to 50,000 students a number of years ago. This year we're at 34,000 students. We have lost almost every single year over the last 15, 18 years. And if you look at our projections, we're going to continue to come down. So the question becomes, do I have less money per school and maybe not service our students as well as we should? And here we've talked about the great programs we have. We want to continue those. And as a matter of fact, we want to improve upon some of those. But if I've got to spend fewer dollars in students because now I have more schools as opposed to closing a few, and remember when those schools close, they go to, first of all, their teachers probably follow them, right? They go with their teachers because most of the teachers move again to one of the neighboring areas where they are going. We keep our teachers. So we don't lose our teachers. We keep our teachers, and they continue to produce great students for us. Yes, in addition to that, it allows us to have some extra dollars because there is $1 million savings, right, per school that gets closed. We talked about $3 million last time, and it wasn't the only time that we've closed schools. If you go back and look at our history, we've been closing schools for a number of years. And really what I'm saying is that the savings that you have in closing, you reinvest in the schools that you have, you reinvest in the pay for our teachers, and we still have a high quality instructional program for our students, which we want. And then in addition to that, we have the additional programs that students get involved with after school on Saturday, to go to San Antonio, to go to Dallas, to go to all the other places that we send students. And we want to continue that. We cannot continue that if we keep spending in very small schools. And so that's just the position that I have. Again, it'll be up to the board, and something that we will think about. I do want to make some other closing comments, but I'll stop there, see whether
That's okay.
you
Totally don't have a meeting after this. You say whatever you want.
All right. So can I go to the closing comments then?
No, you can say whatever you need to say.
Don't we have another meeting after this? Insurance?
I was joking.
Oh,
Okay,
you were
just
being facetious. I didn't catch that. I'm sorry. I'm bad at jokes.
Go ahead.
Just a question here, since we're talking about enrollment capacity. Okay, I'm looking at veterans, for instance. I mean, the student capacity is at 2,040, and the student enrollment is at 2,268. Okay, for occupancy percentage of 111. A question, Dr. Chavez, is that school closed for any other students that come in or that want to come in?
Not currently. I mean, have we closed the enrollment there? Okay, all right.
Yes, a while back.
So here
Well,
with regards to the numbers, mention the numbers to me again.
Okay, it indicates that student capacity of 2,040, student enrollment 2,268.
Yes.
Okay, now my question is this: if we're trying to get students in and we're trying to recruit them, are we turning these families away from veterans? For instance, let me give you an example. We have a family from a neighboring school district. I don't want to name a district, just a neighboring school district. And they're coming in and they want to go to veterans, but they're told that at this point in time, there's no capacity, so we can't take the student in. Are we turning students away, or are we saying, but we have Pace that's closer to here, or do we have this other school? Do we work on the parents, to make sure that we don't turn these students away and maybe tell them, maybe next year, Okay, when these seniors graduate, we may open it up again the way that we normally do. Or even a parent within the district, another scenario that comes in and they want to go to veterans because that's the school of choice. Do we do the same thing instead of turning them away? They're ours, but sometimes they'll come in and say, well, if I can't get into the school, I'm going to take them to IDEA. I'm going to take them to Harmony. They tell us that. How do we work with these parents that are currently here? More interest in the ones that are coming in from neighboring districts.
So the answer is yes. We want to take students, and yes, we may not have the capacity right now. And I say right now because again, it may change, right, from the standpoint that we're going to start a new year, and there may be openings for next year over at veterans. But we do have other great programming in all the other 5 high schools that we have. And of course, we do something similar right with regards to middle schools. So middle schools, you can go anywhere because we have openings everywhere. So yes, sir, we'll continue pushing that and talking about that and having our principals, our schools, if they can't take them at veterans, how about Pace? How about Hannah? How about Porter? How about all the others, right? So we'll continue pushing that.
Yeah, we just don't want to turn them away when we're trying to get more students into our district.
Ms. Grantland.
Quickly, do we know how many people come from surrounding communities to work in Brownsville who bring their children with them to our district? Do we know the numbers? Is that a possibility to begin with? I
Yes.
thought it was. Yeah. Do we know the numbers?
We don't have them with us, but we can collect that information and
It would be
send it out.
interesting to know
Sure.
because, I mean, we are a larger community than the surrounding ones and more job offers or whatever. And so I think that's something we need to be aware of.
Go ahead, Ms. Peña.
And Dr. Chavez, I've got a question. You have, like you said, people that moved into town, because a family did call me, and they moved in real close to veterans. There's nice neighborhoods that are being built out there, and they want to go to veterans. So technically, they would be zoned to veterans.
Yes,
So
ma'am,
am I
and we
hearing-
would accept them there.
So they will not be turned away and say there's no room.
If you live within the zone, you are accepted there. They will not be turned around. Please come.
Thank you, because somebody told them that it was closed, so it's not. If you lived in the vicinity of the school veterans, even though it's a little bit higher, you will be accepted into that school.
If you're
Thank
zoned, if you're zoned there.
If you're zoned, yeah, you live a half a mile from the school, you want to be able to go to that mile from the school, you want to be able to go there. So the answer is yes, you will not be turned away. Okay, so the parent that asked, go back. Sorry.
Ms. Lopez Valdez, can you close it up first?
Of course. First of all, I think it's important to start with leadership and misinformation. It starts at the top. This is something that we've been saying for years, that there's been a deliberate attack on school districts. It is something that started at the federal level with misinformation, at the state level with continuing to be 42nd out of 50 states on what we spend, trying to distract and pay more attention onto the curriculum that is being represented in the schools, paying more attention to the library books that are being implemented versus the actual fact of solutions-based work, which is to accurately fund a district. While all of this has been happening, it's a deliberate attempt to distract and deflect from the real issues, and that is taking away from opportunity from our children. And so we take an oath here as leaders to do what is right for our kids, to serve them above everybody else, to make sure that we provide the truth, essentially, the truth. And you can't stand here and tell me that you want roofs and you want this, but then go against a bond that was specifically for roofs and HVACs. So let's be clear. Truth matters. Facts matter. What was presented before you today is the truth and the facts. And thank you, Ms. Gonzalez, for making sure that we have this meeting right after such a very timely and, like I said, sobering time to have this conversation. Cutting administration, even if you cut the whole entire board, the whole entire main office, there still wouldn't be enough money to replace the roofs. So let's be clear on that as well. Our families deserve the truth, not a campaign that is to distract and to put people's eyes somewhere else on social media, but the truth that's spread here in this room every single day by every single leader who is here. We are the leaders. We need to tell the community the truth, and the truth is today. So I hope that as we make these very tough decisions as leaders, because I assure you that not one person on this board wants to close the school. Nobody wants to close a school. We know what it was like to consolidate 3, and it was really hard to stand there and listen to poems about the schools and who they were named after. And this is very deliberate. And so I want the community to know that we were placed in this situation because of lack of funding, because of lack of solutions. And we are here looking for solutions, doing our best. So thank you to the staff who took such wonderful time to present this factual information for us. And thank you, Dr. Chavez, for your leadership. Thank you for trying to find solutions for us. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez.
And Ms. Gonzalez, real quick, I want to say, please understand, we are not blaming the community because we're short on funds. Do not take that at all. That's our responsibility, not the community. We respect your decisions.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Peña. We're going to move on to public comment. We do have 2 people on the list. They're more than experienced on the rules, so I'm going to trust you guys. You have 5 minutes. I say both of you speak together, and then we'll just pay attention. Miss Adina Alegría. Just both of you talk. Get on the mic.
We can try. Good evening, Chairwoman Gonzalez, members of the committee, Superintendent Dr. Chavez, ladies and gentlemen in the room, and those joining us from all over the city. As this district moves forward with current and future projects, I believe it's worth taking a step back, not to stall progress, but to ensure all projects are built on solid ground. We owe it to our staff, our students, and our community to reflect on what we've learned from past efforts and apply those lessons with intention, especially coming off a bond election and really listening to what some were saying. Even now, while projects are underway, we tend to hear the grumblings, concerns from staff, from community members, from those on the ground, that things aren't being done correctly or could be done differently. Some of the time, not all of the time. I won't stand up here and embellish, as some might, that all projects are done wrong, but at times we hear corners are being cut, timelines slip without explanation. These aren't just isolated complaints, they're symptoms of a deeper issue, a lack of apparent, consistent oversight. We've heard it, we felt it, and frankly, we still listen to it. One of the clearest takeaways is that when no single person is solely responsible for overseeing a project, accountability becomes more spread. I believe we all know what happens when we tend to multitask. In this scenario, added duties give into someone's existing district role. No matter how dedicated they are, it becomes one of many competing priorities. And when no one is entirely focused on owning the process from start to finish, things fall through the cracks. When the bond didn't pass, many of us were disappointed. But disappointment alone doesn't move us forward. We have to ask, why? What were the components of that no vote? One likely factor is trust, or rather the erosion of it. If the community doesn't believe we can execute projects properly, why would they invest more in us? Several employees have pointed out what many in the public are thinking, that having a dedicated individual, someone whose sole job is to oversee facilities projects, would go a long way in restoring confidence. This isn't just about managing construction. It's about managing expectations, timelines, quality, and communication. It's about demonstrating to the public that we take their investment seriously and are committed to getting things done right the first time. Hiring such an individual isn't just a smart move, it's a necessary one. It is in the best interest of this board to act with foresight and integrity. Because when we prioritize oversight, we build more than buildings. We build trust. Thank you for your attention.
Mr. Patrick Hammes.
First, nice job, Adina. Chairwoman Gonzalez, Dr. Chavez, members of the board, Patrick Hammes speaking on behalf of Best AFT, Union Local 3877. Just a couple of comments on page 39, the CTE building phase or thoughts. So first of all, it would be nice to know what is the acreage minus the canal for Plan B for you to take into consideration. The other thing we didn't hear tonight was traffic, roads. How is that going to be affected? How much, how good are the roads in that area? What are the traffic patterns in that area? And hopefully that's taken into consideration also. Maybe you can get some of that information for the next meeting. Thank you very much. Have the best of evenings.
Good job, Patrick. Next steps, Dr. Chavez?
Just very briefly. First of all, we present a lot of very good information tonight, but know that you will be receiving more information from us. As I think of the plan, yes, we need to take a look at this maybe from a longer term plan, but also a shorter term plan, right? From the aspect of what things should we address over the next year, but what things can we address over 3 years, over 5 years? And so we'll take a look at that. Right now I'm thinking that probably in January you'll be receiving some information like that. Earlier for, again, the 1 year things that we need to move on quickly. So be on the lookout for that information. Lastly, let me say, and I'm going to end with this, I am very proud of our teachers, and I'm very proud of our leaders throughout. Yes, our principals, yes, the leadership here at Central Office and other locations. We do tremendous work for our kids, and our kids are extremely successful, not only with us, right, but when they leave us as well. So just wanted to end with that. We're about the children. We're about doing the best what is for our children. So thank you also very much for spending the evening with us in discussing this, and we'll close the meeting and go to our next one.
Yes, I was gonna say, we're gonna just FYI for the audience, we're going to adjourn this, have KBISD set up for the next one, and then we're open. I think we're doing great on time, guys. We are now adjourned for the facility meeting. Call this meeting to order. Good afternoon and welcome to the Insurance Committee meeting. Today is November 13th, 2025. It is a bit past 6:30 p.m. I do apologize. We had another meeting before this that went on, but it was very informative. Members of this committee are myself as chair, Mr. Frank Ortiz as vice chair, and Ms. Denise Garza, who had to step out as member. Our goals for today are to review issues concerning BISD insurance programs, including the self-insured plans. Let's stand up once again for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you very much. I will now turn it over to administration. Dr. Chavez?
Yes, ma'am. We have Dr. Cantu who's going to be guiding us through the presentation tonight. So let me call on her and we'll get started with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez. Good evening, Madam Chair and board members and Dr. Chavez. Today's presentation on insurance is to discuss the different insurance plan options. I'd like to, first of all, begin by thanking our superintendent and our board for approving our new employee benefits director and policy, Mr. Corpus Orola, who is joining us today. Thank you for that. I also want to recognize and give a shout out for having our EBC chairperson, Mr. Tony Mesa, here. Thank you, Mr. Mesa. So I'd like to begin by discussing the vision that we have in the insurance department. Our vision is to make sure that every employee has access to affordable, high-quality healthcare coverage that promotes wellness and sustainable financial security. Our mission is to serve our employees with compassion and excellence, ensuring peace of mind through clear communication, dependable coverage, and responsive support. Today with us we have our consultant, we have both our consultants, Mr. Roger Garza, who is, maybe I shouldn't say this, but who recently was hospitalized, and I'm so glad to see him here. Thank you, Roger, for being here. And we also have Mr. Javier Leal, who will be helping us present the information from Valley Risk Consulting, and he's going to talk about some of the common plans and some of the option comparisons, and he's got some great data, and I promise it is not 40 slides. Welcome, Mr. Javier Leal.
Is it 80?
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Chavez. As Dr. Cantu said, my name is Javier Leal. I am the analytical and medical network developer for Valley Risk Consulting. I'm also here with our lead consultant, Mr. Roger Garza. Tonight, we're going to be going over, as Dr. Cantu said, some plan options. We're going to be going over the most common plans, plan option comparisons, premium and plan comparisons, and we're going to be going over the stop-loss insurance policy. The most common insurance plans that are currently in the market right now for a district or a entity your size are a fully funded and a self-insured plan. A fully funded plan offers you predictability, simplicity. It's ideal for employers, especially smaller ones, and to anybody who would prefer a hands-off approach on a stable monthly budgeting. Self-insured plan offers the potential for cost savings, flexibility, and control over plan design and data, but comes with a great financial administrative risk and administrative responsibility, making them a popular choice for larger entities with more financial stable companies. The comparisons between the two plan options. As a risk bearer, the fully funded plan, the insurance carrier assumes all financial risk for claims. Self-funded plan, the employer assumes the financial risk for paying claims directly. The premium and cost. The fully funded plan, the employer pays a fixed, predictable monthly premium. Under the self-funded plan, the employer's costs are based on the actual claims incurred by the employee. The potential savings. There's no opportunity for the employer to save money if claims are low or the carrier keeps any surplus on the fully funded plan, meaning that anything paid under the premium that you're paying is held by the insurance company. On a self-funded plan, the employer can save money if the employer claims are lower than expected, meaning that anything favorable on a self-funded plan can be obtained and put back into the health fund or remain in the health fund. Regulation, it's fully funded. They're subject to state insurance laws and mandates. Self-funded plans are primarily regulated by federal law, ERISA, and are generally exempt from any state mandates. Control, flexibility. On a fully funded plan, you're limited in flexibility. The employers choose from preset plan designs offered by the carrier. On a self-funded plan, you have high flexibility. The employer can customize plan design and choose specific vendors like a TPA to assist you in administering your claims. The administration, the carrier handles all administrative tasks and compliance requirements under a fully funded plan. Under a self-funded plan, the employer is responsible for the administration, typically partnering with a TPA to handle your claims processing. The risk mitigation. Predictable costs provide inherent risk mitigation under the fully funded plan. Under a self-funded plan, employers can choose a stop-loss insurance to protect against unexpectedly large and catastrophic claims. I put together what's close to a premium and plan comparison for a fully funded plan. These are the 2025-2026 TRS rates. This is as close to coming to a fully funded plan that we're able to use as a comparison without having anything in place. Brownsville's district contribution currently right now is $630 per employee per month. On the far right, Plan A is the most populated plan in Brownsville ISD. As we have presented before, this plan populates 99.2% of Brownsville's population. Those are the current rates that the employee currently pays for each tier and the current plan features that are your most common features in a plan. We've put together these side-by-side comparisons with the TRS Active Primary Care, carries a $2,500 deductible. It's an in-network plan only. And what I did was the rate on the far left and the employee cost using the $630 per employee per month so that you can get an idea of what the cost is for these types of plans, and you can do a comparison on a side-by-side basis. Going to the TRS Primary Active Care, it's also an in-network only plan. It carries a $1,200 deductible, and the rates are currently in place. You can see that the employee-only rate would be $526, and putting it up against a $630, there would be really no cost. TRS Active Care HD is another plan. It's a $3,200 deductible, and the plan premiums are there in the tanned column. TRS Active Care 2, same thing. The plan description is on the bottom, and the employee cost is there, utilizing the $630 per employee per month that the district currently contributes. The Blue Essential HMO is the last plan that TRS currently provides. The rates that TRS provides, they are on the left, and utilizing the $630, the employee cost is posted there. Now, the stop-loss policy, the insurance policy that's currently in place for the district to be able to solicit for a proposal, and if the district so chooses to utilize a fully funded plan, we will have to exercise what they would call the terminal liability option on the stop loss policy. We would have to have that policy in place if the district were to choose a fully funded, any other option than self-funded. It would have to insert this TLO on its stop loss policy for the 2026 plan year. It's a terminal liability that extends the specific and aggregate contract paid period for 3 months, meaning anything that is collected in the last 3 months of the year, it would have to run out into the following year. And being a fully funded plan, you would have to have that option to be able to cover any catastrophic claims that might come through. That's what the stop loss insurance and policy is for. Currently, right now, the estimated annual cost to that 2026 stop loss renewal would be $824,236. Now, the difference between a self-funded and a fully funded plan is just one word. It's just control. You get control of your costs, you get control of your premiums, you have control of your plan, and most importantly, the employees have control also in sharing with the district in its cost. And as Dr. Cantu said, it wasn't a 40-page presentation, and we'll be willing to take any questions the board might have.
We should have scheduled insurance and then facilities. Ms. Grantland?
On the potential savings on page 4 of your handout, has there ever been a time when it was lower than expected in our self-funded program here in this district? You said that the employers can save money if the employee claims are lower than expected. Has that ever happened in our district?
Good evening, Dr. Chavez and members of the Board of Trustees. To answer your question, and actually I'm very proud of it, yes, there was a time in 2019, at the end of 20, in our first year with Blue Cross, October 1 through February of 2020, where we had approximately, and I'm gonna estimate, I think it was like $13 million in reserves. So we did hit that target that year, yes, ma'am.
And what happened beyond that that has now caused us to be in deficit?
And that's another wonderful question. In 2020, we had something that happened across the world. We had COVID. So as operations began to decrease, it was a lot of chaos, I guess you might put it that way. The federal government mandated that we start paying for items that we typically didn't have to pay for before. We had the COVID testings, the filtration system, the mask, and for conditions that really, when you went into the hospital, they were regulated conditions that we had no choice but to pay for. So we incurred, in one particular estimate, it was almost $13 million in cost.
So coming out of that, what shape were we in financially, coming out of those 2 years?
Well, we were still in the black. However, because we decreased funding during that time period, down from I believe it was 620 down to 580. So we decreased approximately $3.2 million a year in funding. So we actually decreased funding at the same time costs were going through the roof, I guess you could put it that way.
What was the logic in the decrease?
Ma'am, we don't know because we weren't at that meeting. I think it happened in May or June of 2020. But nonetheless, it was decreased. So there was no justification from our end. We weren't aware of it when it did.
So it was not a recommendation you made?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Grantland, if I may add, this was a previous superintendent, and because we had been in the black, the idea was, let's cut back on the contribution, and that put us at $3.2 million less. and not knowing that during COVID, people held off on, for example, major surgeries and so forth. So once COVID was over, staff started getting their surgeries that were needed, that were on hold, and that put us in a deficit.
I take it this was not the board in place at the time?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
It wasn't done intentionally, it was at the times. It was something that it was not predictable. Well, we didn't
Questions?
give money away, we just were taking care of
Questions?
our employees.
No more questions from my colleagues? Thank you guys so much for the presentation. Next up, we're gonna go to public comment. We do,
Ms.
oh, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to close by saying we do have some clarity from our board regarding going through a CSP process beginning in April. So administration continues to recommend that we explore all the self-funded insurance plans, all of those that are available. We want to continue to provide a high-quality health coverage for all our employees. We're going to go through the competitive seal proposal. Once we get the competitive seal proposals in, we will evaluate. We'll compare coverage benefits. We'll provide the provider networks, the premium cost. And if we go this route where we explore all the self-funded insurance, it would also avoid us paying the TLO that Mr. Liao talked about, which is it would have to be purchased in January because you have to have a full year of coverage. So it would avoid us by moving forward on this, on the CSP, of paying the $824,236 by exploring all self-funded insurance plans.
So if I may just add to that? Okay.
Go ahead.
The main reason we wanted to present this to you is really for you to think about the $24,000 and whether we, the district, should move forward with that. And we would need to move forward with that if indeed there was support and thinking that we were going to go into a fully funded program. That's when that becomes necessary. Okay. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because when we go to page 5, we are presenting you various premium and plan comparisons, right? And either we would stay with a self-funded situation, or we would go to a fully funded situation. But remember, the fully funded situation, we then would want for you to say, or for us, the district, to be able to cover $824,000
From local funds.
from local funds, and we need to cover that now for the following year. Remember, because we still have our current insurance going forward between January and next December, but we would need to buy the $824,000 now. So we wanted to give you that information. Now, if you want to take what our recommendation is that we stay with the current self-funded situation. We can look at options under the self-funded, and no, we wouldn't have to spend the $824,000. So that's a major thing that we wanted to review with you tonight, and to see what other questions you may have with regards to that. Because remember, yes, it was a consideration that we go to a fully funded and get away from the self-funded. However, that's not what my recommendation is, and we can get into more detail as to why. We can have our experts here. We have people who have worked with our committee as well. And our recommendation is that we stay with self-funded. If you want to talk about fully funded, then we can. And then at that point, yes, we need to be prepared for the December meeting to approve the $824,000.
We need to stay with self-funded, sir. I approve of recommendation.
Yeah, give me a second. I'll just, Ms. Grantland.
That explains, this bit of information explains why we have never gone back to fully funded. Because at one time in the history of this district, we were fully funded. And then we went to self-funded. And now I know why we never reverted to the fully funded. I was the one that brought up the idea of looking at it but I didn't say we needed to do it. And so looking at this bit of information, I think it would be foolish and it would be bad money on top of bad money to have given, I say given away, I'm exaggerating, but to have changed that when we were in the black and then resulted in a deficit. Well, this would be bad decision upon a bad decision if we went to fully funded. So, I mean, it's a moot issue. I think at this point, prudence would say that we stay self-funded, but I do want to explore all possibilities. And I do want to make sure that our vetting process is beyond reproach. I don't want to hear anyone in the community saying that we here on this board gave anyone the edge.
They'll say that regardless. That's a piece that we have to make with.
I know,
us
but
who
I had
we
to
are.
go on record saying it.
I know. Well, good job. Good job for trying. You've been here for a couple of months, and some of us have been here a couple of years.
Oh,
know
honey, you
that
don't
it-
know
that
the
if-
experience I
no,
have.
That if
She
that if
outbeats
we,
all
no,
of us
I
in-
mean
in
here.
experience.
No, I mean here in this
But
dais.
she's very experienced, so I thank you, Ms. Randall. Very
I
experienced.
also think now is not the time to be spending 824,000 unbudgeted money. Do any other of my colleagues? I'll just say really quick. The point of this meeting was for informative purposes, as is any other committee meeting. As you know, we don't vote on it. But I think it was very important to get this out in the open and on the record. I am also, besides saying that I don't believe in spending $824,000 right now for anything, is a right idea. But I'll go back to the EBC committee. Is I put my trust in them. That's the point of them. I've always said that I love that they exist because it's it's a decision for you guys. So I'm in full confidence of whatever EBC recommends is what I support. Somebody else had their hand up. I'm sorry. Ms. Lopez Valdez.
Thank you so much for this clarifying presentation. I think it's extremely important that we continue to look at this. The district has provided wonderful insurance for employees for years. It's something that stands out over other districts, and I want to thank the EBC committee for all their work on continuing to make sure that your voices as employees are the ones who are involved in this process. I also think, there's a lot of shifts going on in the federal government of where health insurance is, and I think it would be very risky to move away from a self-funded plan. So I think that with us continuing to take the administration and the EBC committee's recommendation and making sure that the employees' benefits are in our hands, I think we're taking a strong approach saying that our employees do come first when it comes to insurance. So thank you.
No further questions. We're going to move on to public comment. You might see some familiar faces here. We have 2 people for public comments. You might know them. You might have seen them before. We do have Ms. Gina Alegria. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chairwoman Gonzalez, members of the committee, Dr. Chavez, an esteemed guest here with us today, and those joining us from the KBSD ITV live stream channel. As we navigate the financial realities facing our district, I want to reaffirm the importance of making sound, sustainable decisions that reflect both the fiscal responsibilities and commitment to the employees of the Brownsville Independent School District. Insurance is undeniably expensive, and with premiums continuing to rise, the district must begin planning proactively, not just for today, but for the years ahead. Funding comes from the state and is paid through the general fund, which is already stretched thin. With the recent bond measure not passing, we must now reassess next steps regarding funding, especially since projects are already underway. It's important to remind our BISD community that not all expenses can be covered by the general fund. We must be strategic and transparent about what's feasible. That said, we must also honor the guidance of the Employee Benefits Committee, whose recommendations have been rooted in thoughtful analysis and a deep understanding of staff needs, which many of you champion. There's a proverb in Spanish, el que no cumple su palabra no es hombre. Many members of the Board of Trustees have publicly stated their intention to consult with our committees when making decisions about plans, improvements, or changes. We must hold ourselves to that standard. Say what you mean what you say. We also need to acknowledge the financial risk associated with deviating from our current plan. Exiting a contract prematurely could cost the district significantly. And although we may not yet know the full extent of those costs, we must ask, are we truly willing to incur that expense? Let us not waste resources. Let us finish what the committee asked for. And when it's time to revisit these decisions in a couple of years, we must again come to the table ready to listen. You will be seeking the committee's input once more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alegria. Next up is Mr. Patrick Hamas.
We'll keep it brief again. Patrick Hamas speaking on behalf of Best AFT. Good evening, Chairwoman Gonzalez, Superintendent Chavez, members of the board. I conferred briefly with Tony Mesa from Falk Middle School, who's the current president of the EBC. And one of the recommendations I would make, if you would take page 6 of the presentation and give that to the EBC to let them look at that. And when they look at the comparisons on the family and on the spouse, okay, you're not going to have any problems with the employees recommending that we stay as we currently are. It was also an excellent question on so keep in mind on the fully funded, if we had that good year, we saved that 13 million. On the fully funded, the insurance keeps it. The other part on here is currently Americans throughout this country are looking at a 26% increase in their health care in the affordable, supposedly affordable American Health Act. And again, in a fully funded plan, increases like that. And I want to say, and Mr. Garza can correct me, but because my experiences are a few years ago, but the average rate was somewhere between 12 and 17% of an annual increase on health insurance industry-wide. And so cost containment is very important. Again, Adina, myself, we get the complaints, we hear about insurance, we don't like this, we don't like that, but they like the sticker price. And when you show these kinds of comparisons, and I can remember when TRS came out with their state plan for employees, and like Hayes County went on it, and they were paying $1,500 a month for themselves, okay? That's a pay cut, right? We're paying $17.25. So again, if you get this information out, Tony will make sure the EBC looks at it. And I think that your EBC will make a recommendation that what we're hearing that you're making the same recommendation. So thank you very much. And again, have the best of evenings.
Thank you. Dr. Chavez, any closing comments?
No, ma'am, we're good.
Thank you guys for sticking through it with us. We did 3 meetings in one afternoon. We are now adjourned.